This is Packers Nation HQ, and today I want to break down exactly what this moment means for the Green Bay Packers as they stare straight into one of the most important defensive crossroads of the post-Rodgers era. And before we get deep into it, if you're part of this Packers community that lives and breathes Lombardi time, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, tap that like button, and drop a comment below. It's how this space stays alive, how these conversations keep going, and how Packers Nation HQ remains a place where Green Bay fans actually talk football, not just headlines. Now let's talk honestly about where this team stands. The Packers finished the 2025 season at 9-7-1, sneaking into the playoffs as a 7th seed in the NFC. On paper, that looks respectable. In reality, the way it ended told a much harsher story. 4 straight regular season losses, capped by a wild card defeat at the hands of Chicago Bears, a loss that cuts deeper when you remember what that rivalry means. Green Bay doesn't just lose to Chicago. That's not how this franchise is built. Not in a league where the Packers have been crowned world champions 13 times. Not on the Frozen Tundra of Lambeau Field. Not in a community-owned organization where accountability is baked into the DNA. From my perspective, the season pivoted the moment Micah Parsons went down with a torn ACL. I don't like leaning on injuries as excuses, because the NFL doesn't care about excuses. But when you remove a first-team All-Pro edge defender from a defense that was already thin up front, the consequences are unavoidable. What I saw on film was a pass rush that went from disruptive to passive almost overnight. Quarterbacks sat comfortably in the pocket. Third and long situations lost their teeth. The pressure rate collapsed. Statistically, it backs it up. Before Parsons' injury, Green Bay generated pressure on just over 36% of opposing dropbacks. After he went down, that number dipped below 29%, ranking 21st in the league by PFF's pass rush grade. That's not Packers football. This franchise was built on setting the tone up front, from the days of Reggie White collapsing pockets to the modern expectation that defense complements offense, especially in January. That's why the conversation around adding another elite edge presence alongside Parsons isn't just interesting, it's necessary. And that brings us to a name that would have sounded impossible in Green Bay not that long ago, Khalil Mack. I don't think this gets talked about enough, but the Packers have a long history of turning former rivals into chapter-defining pieces of their own story. Charles Woodson arrived from Oakland and became a defensive cornerstone. Julius Peppers once terrorized Green Bay in Chicago, then helped anchor playoff runs in green and gold. Khalil Mack fits that lineage almost too perfectly. According to PFF, Mack remains productive even as he approaches his mid-30s. In 2025, despite missing 5 games, he logged a 79.2 overall grade, a 77.2 run defense grade, and a 13.2% pass rush win rate. He finished with 5.5 sacks and 4 forced fumbles in just 12 games. And let's not gloss over the career arc here. 113 sacks, multiple All-Pro selections, and resume that screams Hall of Fame. What I see when I imagine Mack paired with Micah Parsons is less about raw sack totals and more about geometry. Pass rush is about space, timing, and forcing offenses into impossible decisions. Slide protection to Parsons, and Mack eats one-on-ones. Chip Mack and Parsons gets isolated. That's how defensive coordinators tilt games without blitzing. Jonathan Gannon's arrival as defensive coordinator matters here. Gannon's philosophy has always leaned toward coverage shells that invite quarterbacks to hold the ball a half second longer, and that only works if your front four can win. His defenses live in 2 high shells, disguise late rotations, and trust edge rushers to finish. From my perspective, adding Mack would allow Gannon to stay structurally sound without compromising aggression. There's also an uncomfortable conversation happening in Green Bay about Rashawn Gary. 7.5 sacks in 2025 isn't disastrous, but the tape raised questions, effort issues, inconsistent finishes, and the reality that releasing him frees up roughly $11 million in cap space. An anonymous NFC North scout told me, Gary has traits, but traits don't scare quarterbacks. Consistency does. Mack still scares people. That quote stuck with me because fear matters in this league. Defensive fronts that dictate protections win games in December and January. Right now, without Parsons, Green Bay didn't dictate anything. Of course, the money matters. SpotTrack projects max market value at 1 year, $18.4 million. That's steep for a soon-to-be 35-year-old, especially for a franchise that historically values disciplined spending. But if that number comes down into the $12 to $15 million range, the calculus changes. You're no longer paying for a savior. You're paying for a multiplier, someone who makes everyone else better. A Packers shareholder since the 1960s put it to me this way: I've seen this team win because it knows when to add the right veteran. Lombardi didn't build champions with kids alone. He added men who knew how to finish. That a powerful reminder what Lombardi time really means. Preparation meeting opportunity, guided by experience. And this matters because the Packers are not rebuilding anymore. Jordan Love's progression made that clear. From my perspective, Love took a real step in 2025. His pocket movement improved, his red zone decision-making tightened, and his chemistry with Jaden Reed turned into one of the quiet strengths of this offense. Reed's versatility, lining up in the slot, motioning into backfield, winning on option routes, fits perfectly within Matt LaFleur's illusion of complexity offense. Defenses think they're seeing one thing, then the ball is gone. Josh Jacobs added another layer. His downhill running style stabilized games when Green Bay needed to bleed the clock, and the wide zone blocking scheme opened up play-action opportunities that Love capitalized on. Offensively, the Packers are close. Defensively, they're incomplete. That's where history comes full circle. Bart Starr didn't win alone. Brett Favre didn't win alone. Every great Packers era paired offensive identity with defensive teeth. Reggie White didn't just rush the passer. He changed how offenses lined up. Khalil Mack may not be prime Reggie White, but in a rotational role next to Micah Parsons, he could restore that sense of inevitability. A Hall of Fame analyst, Pat McPherson, summed it up perfectly. Green Bay doesn't need Mack to be who he was in 2016. They need him to be who he is right now. Efficient, violent with his hands, and smart enough to close games. The lingering question is whether Mack even wants to play in 2026. Retirement is on the table, but if he's chasing one last meaningful run, there are few places more compelling than Lambeau Field. The Frozen Tundra, the Lambeau Leap, the noise that only comes from a fan base that owns its team and demands excellence. From my perspective, this move isn't about nostalgia or headlines. It's about alignment. The Packers are positioned to contend if they fix the pass rush. Pairing Micah Parsons with Khalil Mack would send a message to the locker room, to the NFC North, and especially to rivals like Chicago and Detroit, that Green Bay isn't waiting around for the future. They're shaping it. This franchise has always understood timing. That's Lombardi time. And right now, time is telling the Packers exactly what they need to do next.